I get a lot of clients who ask me, have I done something wrong? They sit across the desk from me and they say, I never thought I'd be here. I feel like a complete loser. I feel like I have failed. And all of those emotions are normal. And if you didn't come into my office and think like that, I would think there was something wrong with you. But the fact of the matter is that you don't need to feel like that. You aren't a failure. You didn't do anything wrong. And you shouldn't feel bad because you're having to file for bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a legal proceeding that entitles you to a discharge of your debt. If you meet the criteria for a bankruptcy, you're going to get your discharge. Whether it be a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, either way, you're going to get some kind of relief. It just simply boils down to which category you're going to fall into. But nobody in the court system is there to say you are a failure. Nobody in the court system thinks that you're a bad person for filing bankruptcy. Our forefathers in Congress set up the bankruptcy law because they didn't want to have a nation of debtors who were burdened with debt. America is an entrepreneurial system. We are set up to bootstrap ourselves up from nothing. Only in America can you do that. Our forefathers recognized this virtue of our American psyche, and they took steps to make sure that we would be able to do it. By creating a bankruptcy law, they allowed debtors who were entitled to a discharge to get out from underneath their debts and become productive citizens again. We did away with the concept of debtors' prisons because we didn't want our citizenry to be burdened with unnecessary debt. So you have to ask yourself, why is it that if our forefathers set up this system and it's a perfectly legal and legitimate way to get rid of your debts, do you feel bad about it? And the answer is because our parents and our parents' parents raised us with the moral idea to pay our debts, which is a good thing. But the world that you were raised in and the world that your parents were raised in is different from our world today. When your parents were kids or when your grandparents were kids, credit didn't exist the way it does now. Credit existed in the form of Joe the Butcher giving you a steak this week because you couldn't afford to pay for it. And so he would have an account. And he would say, you owe this amount of money, and you would pay him on a weekly basis or a daily basis or whatever was worked out between you. But there was no contract. There was no application fee. There were no over-the-limit fees. There was no interest, most likely. Credit in our parents' and grandparents' day was a different structure than it is now. The reason that we have this moral dilemma is because we were raised in an environment and taught in an environment where the person that we owed the debt to had a direct economic impact if we didn't pay it. And if you think about that now, if you borrow $100 from your friend and you don't pay him back, you know that your friend's going to be impacted adversely because he doesn't have the $100 anymore. Now, our credit card systems and our credit card companies and our banking systems, as we've learned in the past year, they're able to go to the federal government and get a loan and get money for bailouts. And you know who's responsible for that? It's you, because you're the taxpayer. That $700 billion bail package is going to be passed on to you and to me, and we're going to be paying for it for the next 3 or 4 generations, most likely. That is a huge tax burden. Filing for bankruptcy eliminates your debt with Capital One, American Express, Wells Fargo, and a host of other unsecured creditors that don't have a personal relationship with you. When you file for bankruptcy, they write it off as a bad debt, and they go to the government for another bailout, which is what you had to pay anyway. So, bankruptcy in today's society is far different than it was in the society that we were raised. Think about that for a while, and think about the fact that the bankruptcy court is really about protecting you from unruly creditors. While you may feel a moral obligation to pay your debts, and I applaud you for that, that's a good thing, think about that the next time the creditor's on the phone harassing you, bugging you for a payment, and you have to make the decision between putting food on the table or taking your kid to the doctor or paying $39 for a minimum payment on your Capital One bill. Make the decision and think about this, and then call us to arrange for a free consultation.